Hi, everyone. That was beautiful, wasn't it? I was mesmerized. So in this conversation today, we are going to talk about how consumers can drive global change. Now, this excites me because I'm a journalist, and we're often faced with so much negativity, so much bad news. So it's very important to know that each of us can do something, no matter how big or small. And I am pleased to be joined by leaders from the private sector, nonprofit, and broadcast. And in keeping with our theme here at Global Citizen, now we're going to be focused on action, not just talk, okay? Tim. I won't say it more than once, but I'm a big Delta fan, okay? Because I'm from Atlanta, so I grew up only flying Delta. But I promise you, my questions are not biased. So talk to me about how Delta is leading with purpose. And we were talking a little bit before we took the stage about how Delta really is at the forefront of jumping into the middle of crisis, but it's very behind the scenes work. We don't really see that on social media or out there at all, but you guys are doing a lot of incredible things. Talk to me about that mission.
Well, thank you, and if I could amplify your comments, what a stunning performance. What an absolute privilege to get to be here to hear that, and also to reflect on the power and the poignant messages we've all had over the last couple of days. Chloe backstage said, I don't actually associate Delta with crisis, and I said, that's kind of by design, hopefully, although we partner with Jennifer and the Red Cross. But to that point, we're big believers at Delta Airlines. And by the way, what a privilege to be here with each of you and to partner with Global Citizen and all of you in this important dialogue and the great work. We believe that no one better connects the world. There's a lot of people, we heard Hans yesterday, who likes to connect the world as well in a different way. But we believe air travel allows you to not just get between A and B, but to get into the shoes of other people in other countries. And we've talked about a lot in these 2 days, the limitations of government, candidly. And I think as a global enterprise, and particularly as a global airline, we're able to fly over the borders that constrain governments and connect the world in ways, whether it was Nelson Mandela or Mahatma Gandhi or Martin Luther King in the United States, who, because of their experiences outside the United States, had greater empathy for different communities within the United States. And so we focus on giving 1% of net income back to the communities we serve. I shared with Jennifer one of the examples of that, and to me that's really authentic for us, is when there was an earthquake in Syria and in Turkey in 2023, we gave the International Red Crescent Society a major grant. We don't serve Turkey and we don't serve Syria. It wasn't a commercial intent. So while we don't like to be associated with catastrophic situations, we nonetheless see human suffering and want to act and do something about it.
And there's a beautiful partnership that you all have with the American Red Cross. Jennifer, I know that you lead partnerships and you work with companies like Delta. Talk to us about that partnership and how do you all execute it? What type of a sounding board are you for companies like Delta, and how do you decide how to drive impact?
I think a lot of times people think, well, Delta just donates to the American Red Cross and we accept a check and off we go to do the good work and deliver the mission. But it's so much deeper than that. There's a deep, healthy relationship between our two organizations. Delta takes what the American Red Cross does and elevates it. They are our largest corporate blood donor sponsor in the US. We're responsible for almost 40% of the nation's blood supply, and Delta is our largest corporate donor. During COVID, when we had to, think about how we collect blood, Delta stood right next to us. They said, let us help you figure this out. Let's figure out the best way we can do this to ensure that that nation's blood supply isn't disruptive. And so it's not just about kind of this one-to-one relationship. It's about mutually benefiting and learning from each other. And I know sometimes you think, well, we don't want disasters and airlines to ever be associated with each other, right? To Tim's point. But at the same time, there's learnings that each one of us brings to the table that enhances the relationship. It makes both organizations stronger because we have those kinds of conversations and work together.
When we're looking at the world globally, not just driving impact on a corporate level, it's also the individuals in our communities who are making a difference. And one of those incredible individuals is here with us today, and it's Berla. And Berla is doing some wonderful things in Ghana to empower young women in your home country. Talk to us about what exactly you're doing for the young women of Ghana.
Thank you so much, and greetings to everyone. In my country, I speak Ghan, so I say Minganya and that means greetings to you all. But thank you again. And well, my name is Berla Mundi. I'm a broadcast journalist. I work with Media General in Ghana. It's the #1 broadcast station in the country, and I've done this for 12 years. Now, along the line, I realized that a lot of young women were inspired by what I do, and they'd always come to me and say, Berla, I want to become like you. I want to be a broadcast journalist. And I'd ask them a very simple question. Why do you want to become a broadcast journalist? And most of them just didn't have an answer. Most of them will say that, well, I mean, you look nice on TV. You always have nice hair, nice makeup. You wear some of the coolest clothes. And so I think I could try that. And I'd look at them and tell them, well, that's just 2% of the actual work. There's a lot more that goes into becoming a journalist in the first place. You have to do a lot of research. You have to go to school. You have to sacrifice so much. Are you ready to do that? And they're like, well, if you can just put me in front of the camera, I think that would be fine. So over time, I realized that there was some disconnection. Yes, I was on there, I was inspiring, but how was I inspiring these young women? Was it for them to become a second-rated version of me? Or did I have to find a way to help them to discover their true potential and their talent so they can become the first-rated version of themselves? So I started the Be You by Berla Mundi Foundation. I say thanks to God for that. I woke up one morning and it just dropped in my spirit, and I wrote it down and I started. And what I decided to do was take along with me some professionals who have done really well in various fields of endeavor to visit the campuses, have conversations, deep conversations with these young girls and boys as well, to let them understand that if you really want to become successful in life, you first of all have to identify what your purpose is on earth and walk in that purpose. So you don't have to be a Berla Mundi at all costs just because you think it's nice and glamorous to be on TV, but you can become the best version of yourself if you have to be a doctor, if you have to be a designer, or whatever it is that you have to be. And I've run this project for 5 years. I've discovered quite a number of young women. In fact, the team I work with all came from my project. I met them on the campuses. I have producers on board. I have just incredible young women who are working with me. And we've discovered quite a number of people. We've had some support from various industries as well. And I must say that so far, so good. I've got so many people who have come to me and say that because of this project, I think I've discovered what I really want to become, and I'm pursuing that relentlessly. And that's what gives me fulfillment.
Wow. I love when people say, oh, your job is so glamorous. I'm like, I don't own any of these clothes. And I was at a courthouse all day yesterday from 5 a.m. to 7 and doing my best to try to be there for my kids. We're all just trying to do the best job we can. It's like the iceberg metaphor. People only see the tip, right? They don't see all the hard work that gets you to that point. Tim, obviously, though, Delta can drive impact, and you can work with wonderful organizations like the Red Cross, but a company is only as good as their team. And you have to have diverse viewpoints. And we're living in a polarizing time. We also need to see more women at the top. We need to see people from all different backgrounds and LGBTQ community as well. Talk to me about what is Delta doing to have a commitment to diversity? And I know that that is at the forefront of also what you're thinking of.
Sure, and thank you. I mentioned connecting the world earlier. You cannot connect the world well if you don't reflect the world, if you don't respect the world first. And we're huge fans of what Berla has done in Ghana. And I'll just stay with women. It's not lost on any of you that women represent 50% of the world's population. They represent less than 5% of Delta pilots, and that's true across the industry, and it's even fewer still when you get into diverse populations within women who want to get into aviation. And among the programs, and we have many, many, but I'll highlight one because for a number of years now, we do something called WING. We love acronyms in aviation. If you guys fly, y'all know there's a lot of acronyms in aviation. WING stands for Women Inspiring the Next Generation. And among the things we do is take, most recently, 134 girls between the ages of 11 and 18, most of them African American or from marginalized communities, and we invite them down to the Kennedy Space Center on a flight that is operated 100% by women. And that's not just 2 pilots that are women, that's just not flight attendants, that's the flight dispatchers, the ramp workers, the gate agents. All these girls see is women operating a flight. And this sounds trite, but you can't be it if you don't see it. And I was so struck today by OC's comments earlier that talent is global, but opportunity is not. And so these women and these young girls have this opportunity to interact. And I wish I could show you a picture of these girls looking up. You're talking 11 to 18-year-old little girls who are looking at an African-American female captain. A plane at Delta Airlines costs on average $250 million. That captain is responsible and in command of every aspect of that flight. And it just gives me chills sitting here thinking about the looks on some of these little girls' faces because they're looking up at a woman who is in complete command of that entire flight that is operated by everyone else. Still to this day, fewer than 5%, but that is an example of how we're working to bring interest into that whole idea of there's talent, there's potential, there's not opportunity. And we do that across any range of different demographics and areas of geography because again, we can't best serve the world if we don't first reflect the world and have that empathy and that understanding.
Jennifer, when we think of the Red Cross, we think about disaster relief, and you all are doing so many things that we only see certain things on the news or certain things on social media. But if you could briefly tell us about a recent experience that you were a part of with the American Red Cross and tell us how you all handled that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to reflect back to a recent one that was in the news, which was the tragic wildfires that occurred in Maui. And for a lot of folks I know, we saw that on the news initially, and as the general population does, we've moved on, right? And we're focused on other things. There's still just under 2,000 people that we're sheltering in Maui at this moment in time. We started out with more than 8,000. That's what we see in disaster nowadays, is the lack of affordable, available, safe housing. When you're in a Red Cross shelter, you are not there because it's your first choice. You are there because it's your only choice. And so we know that folks who continue to stay in our care for these really long, exacerbated periods of time, they need all kinds of additional help. But that's the value that our volunteers bring. They show up every day. They're out there still taking care of folks who can't return home. And what they say is, I see you. I haven't forgotten about you. We value what you're going through, and we will continue to walk along that path with you. And Hawaii is just one very small example of what we're challenged as an organization to deliver in terms of mission across the U.S.
You know, our family, we lost our home in a fire in 2020, and I partnered with the Red Cross afterwards and did something called the Sound the Alarm campaign so that everybody has battery-operated smoke detectors in their home. But when we talk about big and small change, like I said at the beginning, I can't tell you what an impact I had, and it changed my life, how strangers just showed up to my in-laws' home and just brought a coat or a hug. And you know, change can also just start with the smallest of things. I do want to give you guys each a moment because we are running out of time. I could talk to them all day. But a rapid fire sentence to this question is that what's the greatest power that consumers have and should lean into to drive change in the world? Berla, we were talking about that earlier.
Yes, we were, and I was just telling you, and this is just a few minutes, but I'll try and summarize it. So for me, as a brand ambassador as well, because that's also one of the jobs that I do, I realized that a lot of the brands that come to me because I appeal to a certain audience and the needs of that particular audience. And so what I want to tell consumers is you have the power of choice. And that's for you to decide. So if a brand does not necessarily speak to your interests, your values, how you intend for them to support society, and in my case, support young people, then you have that choice to skip and move on to the next one. And that's the way these brands, would learn to do things the right way. And so as a consumer, always remember that you have that power of choice. And that's what I also do, which is why the brands come to me, because I appeal to younger people. Young people require support. And Africa has the youngest population. In the next couple of years, we're all going to be looking to Africa for human resource because we have it all. So as a consumer and as an audience, you always have to remember that if this is the direction that young people intend to go, you also have to tailor your brand and your services to suit that if you still want your brand to stay afloat. Thank you.
So I would tell you your philanthropic relationship can be transactional or it can be transformational. I challenge you to explore the second. When you support a nonprofit or even a corporation, you bring value, you bring experience, you bring perspective. That relationship is so much richer when it is a two-way conversation. So really look for that transformational relationship when you're giving, because you will both mutually benefit from that.
I would simply add both of those are great answers. I mean, customers are the people with the money, right? As a service business, we're beholden upon listening, responding to what it is our customers are telling us, and then listening again, did we get it right? And when you as customers express to us your interest in sustainability or your interest in diversity or your interest in youth education, we listen. We really genuinely listen, because it's beholden upon us in order to appeal to the 200 million people we have the privilege of serving in 60 countries around the world, that we in fact act on what we have heard. And I want you to know that when you choose to fly Delta, and thank you to those who do, you are supporting the American Red Cross. You are supporting Berla's efforts, because we do give back into these communities. And it's a bit small, even at $60 million, but it is everything that we can do with our own employees' efforts, with money, with support. But the consumer changes that are going on right now are transforming business. It is the youth of tomorrow that are the frequent business travelers of us today, and that we need to be paying particular attention to.
Well, I'm going to ride this Delta train to the end here because, like I said, I'm a frequent Delta flyer, and I'll admit that one of the reasons, beyond the fact that I can watch the Global Citizen Festival in flight, y'all, is... Well, oh, you just wait for this one. Is those little cookies you serve. They're so good. Where can I get them when I'm not on a Delta flight, Tim?
Well, today we have a bit of good news, and I heard some great stories on, these are called Biscoff cookies. They're these little gingerbread things. How many people have flown Delta, and how many people like Biscoffs? Okay, I'm very happy to hear you say that, because taped beneath each of your chairs is a Biscoff cookie. You guys want to look?
Wait, and you get a cookie, and you get a cookie, and you get a cookie.
Berla is trying to look under her chair.
I'm trying.
Oh,
no.
Now, one of you has a particular seat that's got something beyond just a Biscoff cookie. Did anybody find an envelope under their chair? Okay. So will you please stand up? So, in addition to getting a yummy Biscoff cookie, you have just won 2 Delta tickets to the Global Citizen Festival here in New York, as well as 2 VIP passes to the entire festival. So thank you very much.
All right, well, listen, thank you all so much for your time today, and enjoy your snack. Thank you.